Woo! It's a hell of a day at sea, sir, has it not been? Woo! What a week for Sovereign Tech. It's been a hell of a ride. Let me tell you, boy, a few things. First off, yeah, that episode that I released, I released it on 420, and of course talked a little bit about drugs, had the inimitable, the amazing MK Lords on. That got about the response that I expected. Some people, anyway, were not very happy. But, woo, the Stallion does it anyway, baby. Nothing shuts this action down. Woo! What was the title? MK came up with the title. Feminism is socialism with a strap on. Okay. All right. Look, folks, this is a great, I don't want to talk. We don't need to talk about that anymore. This is an episode, a little special, little tech special, really, that I have teased for some time, and that a lot of people were really excited to hear. And so I'm putting it together here now. This might be part of a series. And the series is going to be about how to set up your own cloud effectively. Okay. And we're going to be covering a NAS. NAS is NAS, Network Area Storage. And we're going to, in this one, the first one that I'm going to talk about is probably like the easiest to set up, as far as like, getting your own cloud going, and all that. And there's some cost, but we're going to talk about what each little piece of hardware that you need, what it's, around what it's going to cost. And there'll be links in the show notes, for everything. And really the easiest network area storage to set up. And we'll talk about why this is important, even though we talked about this, maybe a month or two ago on a Sovereign Tech Prime episode, why I was just so, my situation with Simple Note and some other things, and why I was just so sick of using and trusting the cloud from other companies, and why I pretty much wanted to make my own. But we'll talk a bit more about that. But we'll be covering how to set up a NAS from Synology. Okay. And this is, a NAS at the end of the day is really just a very unglorified server. Okay. And I say unglorified because it's not something you really maintain a whole lot, at least not hardware wise and, amongst other things. But Synology has really, I remember when they first started coming out with their NASs, and, all it is it looks like a hard drive enclosure. And that's pretty much it. Now that is, while it's an unglorified server, it is a glorified, hard drive enclosure. Okay. External hard drive enclosure. That's exactly what it looks like. You pop in a couple of hard drives, 1, 2, or 4, whatever size, NAS that you get, however many hard drive bays that it has. And then, within that, you connect it to your router, to your home router, and then you can, access it. Depending on how you have it set up, you can access it as long as you're on your home network. We're going to get into a lot of this different stuff. Okay. But Synology is the reason I'm starting off with that. That's why I say this might be a series, because maybe in the future I'll talk about sandstorm.io. We could talk about OwnCloud. There's a few like personal cloud solutions that exist now, because I think people are really clamoring for it after all of the bullshit that has happened, with the more popular cloud services. So to quickly break down why I think it's a good idea to have your own cloud effectively, or what is really like your own server. And like I said, believe me, with Synology, in my opinion, I think just about, and it's, sometimes it can be difficult, admittedly, for the tech savvy to try and emulate in their head how to set up something for somebody perhaps that isn't so tech savvy, which is totally fine, if you're not so tech savvy. But I think Synology's at the point where even putting it together, because you have to open up the enclosure, you have to put in the hard drives. They don't do that for you. I think just about anybody could do it. I really, really do. I think it's at that stage. So that's why I'm starting off with Synology. And that's why I think a little more comfortable now, as to where years ago, I really would have felt like this would have been a good idea. But not, the concept of network area storage, the concept of having your own server and all this, really wasn't to the point where I think it's, totally democratized, where anybody can do it. And we will talk about the potential issues with using a Synology, NAS. Okay. But anyway, because there are some, there's a reason that other services also exist. But anyway, we'll save that for a minute. So to describe, why you want this, let's break down, maybe the popular cloud services that are out there and each issue with those. And, then we can kind of say how having your own NAS, your own cloud, can really solve a lot of that. So probably the major ones out there would be Dropbox, and then Google Drive, OneDrive, Amazon Drive. There's Box. I can't really say much about Box. I don't really use it. So, and I think they're more geared at enterprise anyway. And I'm shocked they haven't been bought out by like Microsoft or something. But anyway, the more popular like consumer facing ones would be Dropbox. Now, what are the issues with Dropbox? There isn't a whole, I mean, if I'm coming from the anarchist perspective, I could say, well, Condoleezza Rice is on their fucking board. How the hell would you trust those people? Yeah. Okay. Right. Like that's the low hanging fruit. But as far as something else, is what's wrong with Dropbox. The only real problem with Dropbox, and this will be kind of a recurring theme through, when you describe a lot of these different cloud services, is that they create features and then they take them away. And so that really does suck is when so Dropbox had like that mail feature, they had some other stuff and then they, they're just like, okay, well, this isn't working out for us. So we just stop. And this speaks to when you aren't in control, you are at the mercy of the company as far as what features you have available to you. Okay. Now Synology, with their network area storage, understand this isn't just about storage. Okay, there's a lot of features. There's a lot of software. I mean, you are, when you set up this network area storage, you are getting pretty much an entire new operating system to get access to. And you always have control of those features. Like I've yet to see where Synology has ever deprecated something. I mean, like maybe they won't update an app anymore, but I haven't really seen them deprecate any apps. There's no point. Like why do that? Because it's all localized anyway. It's not like with Dropbox where there's entire, company-wide system resources that have to maintain something. It's not true for Synology or for network area storage in general. So I don't really see that happening, is that concept of like losing a feature that maybe you come to rely on. I mean, that's one of the biggest arguments for having your own server or your own network area storage is that you have control of these features, and you can add the ones you want, and the others don't kind of get schlepped on you to be some kind of exploit unless you install them yourself, which installation is easy, by the way, especially when we're talking about Synology. Okay, so Dropbox, not a whole lot to say there, but let's go on to the next one. Let's talk about Google Drive. Now, Google Drive is probably, I guess you could say Dropbox might be the most popular, but really Google Drive probably is. And everybody already has a Google account, so everybody already has Google Drive, and Google Drive is tied in with, Google Docs, and, how many companies, and teams and individuals use Google Docs. I mean, it's so pervasive. Then you have Google Photos, which is part of it as well. So Google Drive has this entire, really software ecosystem behind it. Now, this is also something that a NAS can really replicate. And yes, it can, even on your smartphone. So again, we're going to break down into all of that. You're going to see just how advantageous having a NAS is. As far as the problems with Google Drive, when you get into the larger amounts of storage, it just it's so cost prohibitive. It is so expensive. Like with a common NAS, you can set up anywhere from 4 terabytes, honestly, to 32 terabytes. I mean, to some degree, the sky's the limit based upon how much money you want to lay down. Now, while the cost might seem comparable, like within the first couple of years of running something, understand that when you're setting up a NAS, in the hard drives you use, these are not high performance drives. These are meant for very long term, running. Most of these devices are designed to be running for years and years and years. And so at the end of the day, it does become more cost effective to pay, for per terabyte to pay for a NAS than it is to pay for Google Drive. Google Drive's prices once you get above 1 terabyte, they get crazy. I mean, they get stupid expensive. And there are limitations. You can only go so far. So that's not necessarily a disadvantage for Google Drive. That's not inherently a problem, but it is something that, it is prohibitive to you of what you can do and also to your wallet. So that's something to consider as far as Google Drive goes. I mean, and then to say nothing of the fact that, well, God damn it, you have to have a Google account. And, I totally love and respect people that don't want one. as unavoidable as that seems to be today, especially since I think it used to be okay. Like, yeah, you could have a YouTube account and it could be separate. You didn't have to have a Google account. I think now every YouTube account has turned into a Google account, even if it's not your primary one, which kind of sucks, but whatever. So there's Google Drive for you, kind of the, not exactly disadvantages, but they fall in that realm. Then let's talk about OneDrive. So OneDrive is the most egregious and was really the event that happened that started my path down. Okay, no, the cloud is really, really not going to live up to its promise, at all. And there's going to be one, speaking of its promise, there's going to be one overarching issue that all of these will have in common that I'll describe in a second, or, after we get past a couple more of these. So with OneDrive, what you ended up with was OneDrive Gate, which I covered on Sovereign Tech. This happened, was this 2015? Yes, I believe it was the fall of 2015, where, Microsoft came out and said, maybe it was like in 2014 or early 2015, where Microsoft, they made the claim that, okay, guess what? OneDrive, if you have, so first thing they did is that, with Office 365, they're really trying to put together this very impressive software package that you would pay a subscription fee for. For a home plan, it was like it's like $10 a month. And it still is to this day. It's a great deal because you're getting, Microsoft Office, which used to cost hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000. I mean, like just crazy amount of money. And you get that along with new versions as they come out. You get, just for that flat fee of $10 a month. Now, you originally would only get like 1 terabyte of storage with that. This was back in 2014 when they first started really pushing Office 365. Maybe that was like 2013 when they did that. But anyway, they eventually came out and said, okay, with your account. Now, here's the thing, like with an Office 365, like at least the home account, you can share it with 5 users. Okay. It's like a family plan, right? So, and each one of those users gets 1 terabyte of, it's not like a shared thing. You get your own 1 terabyte of OneDrive space. Then I think it was it was either later 2014 or early 2015. Then Microsoft said, okay, you're going to actually now you're going to get 5 terabytes of hard drive space. Everybody in your, that you share your account with, each person gets 5 terabytes. Then they finally just came out and said, well, you know what? Guess what? You're going to get unlimited. Like you can put as many terabytes, whatever that you want on, on our servers. Okay. So then what happens is in fall of 2015, I guess it was like maybe end of September, early October, suddenly out of nowhere, like literally at midnight, Microsoft comes out with a blog post that says, okay, we're scaling back all OneDrive storage to 1 terabyte. You can't even buy more. Okay. Like the hard limit is 1 terabyte. Unless you're a business, then there's some other options. But for the average consumer or, user, you're just stuck at 1 terabyte, which is bad because even before they offered unlimited, they offered 5 terabytes, right? So like they didn't even go back to that level. They went way back. I mean, they scaled you back like there was no tomorrow. And their claim is that, well, there were some people that were abusing it using like 80 terabytes and some, crazy amount. And they were storing videos and all this other stuff. Now, the thing is key word here. They, in their blog post, in their announcement, they use the term abuse. That is like, they did give, to Microsoft's credit, they did give people refunds that requested it. Because like they should have been not that I care to go to the courts, but they should have been facing a lawsuit for saying abuse because the people the OneDrive users used OneDrive the way it was advertised. They did not abuse anything, right? Because they said unlimited storage, put up whatever the fuck you want. If you take advantage of unlimited storage, how the fuck is that abuse? It's not. So, I mean, Mike, like that moment, in my opinion, so it's funny because two things, and I talked about this on Sovereign Tech when it happened. You had two amazing moments, or two seminal, I guess I should say, not amazing. One of them's amazing. The two seminal moments in computing history, both caused by Microsoft and with the same exact service. And that is when, like, I was so excited when they said with OneDrive, you're going to get unlimited storage. I was like, this changes everything. The cloud has finally become viable because now, like, literally you will never run out of hard drive space again. It's over. Like, yeah, pay the $10 a month. It'll be up there forever. And it's not like Microsoft's ever going to really delete it. Even if you stop paying for it, they would just hold it until you started paying again. And I was like, it literally changes everything. You have post-scarcity data effectively. Now, not literally, but then nobody literally means post-scarcity when they say the word post-scarcity, when they say the term post-scarcity. Nobody literally means like that it's actually unlimited. Obviously, that's impossible. The universe itself has a relatively finite size, right? So, I mean, of course, there's no such thing as literal post-scarcity. So, but anyway, but the point was still the same. Like, this is post-scarcity data. Like, you just don't have to think about it anymore. Just fucking download and upload everything. But then, a year later or so, suddenly they say, nope, that is not happening. And as soon as, we're scaling back on all of it. And as soon as that happened, like, my mind just instantly said, fuck it. I'm not trusting the cloud ever again. I'm not buying into this shit, screw it. And that's OneDrive Gate. And that is one of the major things that got me interested in doing my own server and, rocking with a NAS or something like that, again, because I just wasn't going to trust another company, even a company with, plenty of cash flow like Microsoft. Like, if anybody could do it, they're the ones that could do it. Now, interestingly, okay, so there's the problem with OneDrive is that, like, out of nowhere, say you were using the 5 terabytes that was promised to you for some time. You got scaled all the way back to 1 terabyte. So you can't count on the amount of storage that you have. And you were given a date. Okay, this is the amount of time within which, you need to, get such and so much off your server. Now, admittedly, real quick, okay, with OneDrive, like my OneDrive account, and I think it's well past the time that you're supposed to have everything downloaded. My OneDrive account still shows kind of unlimited storage. Like, it never really said unlimited. It just said 10 terabytes. But mine still shows that, so I don't know what's going on there, but whatever. So now, the company that still does offer, interestingly, supposedly unlimited, cloud storage, even though, again, I'm not going to trust that this is always going to be the case, but this is another company that, yeah, if anybody could do it, they could do it. And that's Amazon. So with Amazon Cloud Drive, you do have, it's $60 a year, which is admittedly a great price. For $60 a year, you can upload whatever the fuck you want, however much you want, and you can download it and all of this. Now, the issues here, okay, with Amazon Cloud Drive is that there's not a whole lot, there's not a real feature set. It is very much just dumb storage. Maybe that's what makes it a little more feasible for Amazon because they're not connecting it to any other software. And so there's not a whole lot of bandwidth action going on. But they do offer, unlimited photo storage. And then they have, Amazon Cloud Drive, which offers, totally unlimited storage. And, that's a great price, $60 a year to put up as much data as you want on there. It's something. Now, I mean, the interface isn't the slickest. It's super basic. Okay. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but do understand, yeah, it's fucking basic. And so I think it's worth it, but I don't trust, after what happened with OneDrive Gate, I just don't trust that this is always going to be that way. Granted, like I said, if anybody could do it, Amazon's the one that could do it because, they power 80% of the internet? Like literally AWS, those servers, everything's running on those fucking servers, or almost everything. So anyway, yeah, so there's your breakdown. Amazon with their cloud drive, there's not anything necessarily negative to say, just that it's not very feature rich. It's literally just storage. And that's the thing with a NAS. it doesn't have to just be storage anymore. Okay. Even with, alternatives, like I said, we're going to talk about Synology, but with alternatives like FreeNAS, where you can kind of set up your own, and other systems like Sandstorm, Sandstorm.io and some others. It's not just storage anymore. Now it's, you get your own little like office and, software ecosystem that you get to take advantage of, with a NAS now, which is really, really cool. So now the overarching problem that all of those services that I just mentioned have is that they are very much limited by your internet connection, okay, by your upload, download speeds and all of that. Some places that's okay. Other places that is, brutal to have to worry about that. Now with a NAS, you can actually, you are connected right to your home router, and you're not really going through the internet to get to it. You are just going to your router. And so the speeds are limited by the technology of your router and nothing more. So you have a lot of control and you get insane speeds. It's nuts, how quickly you can interact, with a good solid NAS, on your home network. Okay. Now, before anybody asks, but what if I'm not on my home network? How do things work when I'm away? Well, this will be true for any NAS or any server setup you have or whatever, is that when you're away, you can set it up to where you can access that NAS even when you're not at home. But then you are, just like the other services, then yes, you are going to be limited by the speed of the internet connection that you're connected to. All right. But when you're at home, there are no limits. Like, you're only limited by what you put in your home. It is just so blazing fast. So anyway, all right, let's start, as far as, I guess I should say I was going to talk about how a NAS would solve all of those problems. Well, we already described that with a NAS, you have control of what software gets installed, what features you get to add on. And those features generally, I've never heard of one getting taken away. Just haven't. Maybe a third-party feature or something might get taken away because like Synology does have an app store. And they do allow for some third-party apps, but I've never seen one go away. I've only seen, apps like just not get updated anymore. So, you have that. Also, the amount of storage that you want is merely limited by how much you buy, and it's a one-time fee, right? And hard drive prices are so fucking low, even for a NAS, setup, because you're going to end up getting a different hard drive. We'll talk about that as we break into this. So anyway, yeah, those are the main advantages, is that you absolutely have control. You have control of how much storage. That amount of storage cannot be taken away from you because you're fucking buying it. It's a physical hard drive that you're buying. And I think the price is right, so there's a big advantage there as far as price, especially, when you get above the 2-year mark, which I think most NASs will easily last you, especially with a lot of the smart systems, like say the Synology, like a lot of the hardware tricks or software tricks that they have in play with it, really help save the hard drives, and there's even, you can do backups where, like with the Synology, depending on what model you get, and I'll talk about what model I recommend here. Okay. But depending on what model you get, you can run in RAID 0 or RAID 1. And with RAID 1, okay, which, understand this. So RAID 0, okay, is the idea of hooking up multiple hard drives. And all of those hard drives, when you connect them, they all act as one. Okay. Like literally, like they all act as one giant hard drive. As to where RAID 1, and there's a bunch of other RAID setups, there's, which is just like a disk array. That's what, RAID effectively means. When you set up in RAID 1, say you have 2 4 terabyte hard drives in your NAS. What you'll have is you'll have access to 4 terabytes, and then the second hard drive, the second 4 terabyte hard drive in there, will actually be an exact mirror copy of everything that happens on the 1 4 terabyte hard drive. So you have automatic backup, like, right in the same device, which is, that's really handy. I run in RAID 0, but, I totally respect and understand why people would want to run in RAID 1, where they would have, a backup copy at all times. That's a brilliant fucking idea. Why wouldn't, at the end of the day, why wouldn't you do that unless, really you want that massive amount of storage? So let's talk about, what Synology I recommend. And I will put links in the show notes for these, which, full disclosure, the Amazon links in the show notes will go through the Sex and Science Hour Amazon affiliate link. So we'll get a bit of a cut if you decide to go forward, with these. And if you want to go with something different, if you do want to use the Amazon link, stuff.sexandsciencehour.com, we'd really appreciate it. So anyway, let's see. We have the one that I'm using, actually, that Stephanie and I set up in the home is it's the Synology DS216J. So it's the DS216J. Now, there's a couple other models underneath that, or there's one underneath and there's one above that I think are pretty good. There's the DS115J, and that is a single hard drive model. Okay, and it handles up to 8 terabytes, which an 8 terabyte hard drive is sort of where things are at right now as far as a singular hard drive. I really don't think that's worth the money because it doesn't cost that much less than the 216J. And the 216J is a dual bay NAS. So you can put in 2 hard drives, which allows you to do, like I said, that RAID 1 setup. Or there's, JBOD. There's a bunch of different setups you can do once you get into the multi-bay enclosures for a NAS. The DS416J. So, all right. So the 216J, which is the one I have, that can do up to 16 terabytes. The DS416J can do 32 terabytes because it has 4 hard drive bays. So you can put in 4 8 terabyte hard drives into it. And it has all the features that we'll talk about in the 216J. So it's really up to you which one that you want to go with. Now, understand this about a NAS, or about a Synology NAS in any case. That is, this is, at the end of the day, it's kind of a poor man's server. And the 216J right now you can get for $170. That's what Amazon has it listed at right now, which is a fucking great price. But this is in many ways really a computer. And like I said, with Synology's software, okay, that they put into their disk stations, okay, their NASs, it's a full on suite. It is a full on operating system. Okay. So, any NAS that you go for, you want it to be at least dual core. And yeah, these things have their own, what adds up to a processor. Okay. So you want it to be dual core. So that way you can handle kind of the load. And the operating system, well, we'll talk more about that as we get into it. So there's a lot of nice little features about this. We could talk into, again, the potential problems of a NAS later on. But so you want to get it. So the DS216J, this is the one that I use. I love it. I think it's very, very slick. Now, as far as hard drives go, okay, there's really a couple different options that you might want to go with. Okay, the ones that I put into mine were I put in 2 4 terabyte hard drives, and these are actually Seagates. And the link will be in the show notes for the exact model that I got, but it's specifically, they're specifically NAS hard drives. Okay. Like they're made for that kind of storage. These are not things that you'd want to put into a gaming desktop rig or something. All right. And they are full size. They're the full 3.5 inch hard drives. So, keep that in mind. All right. And as far as I've seen, I haven't really seen a NAS that takes advantage of 2.5 inch hard drives, but you really wouldn't want that because you want more of the full architecture of a full size hard drive, in my opinion. And you certainly don't want to go with flash storage because that defeats the purpose, because flash, even as good as like NVMe, flash storages and everything, you are limited by how many read and writes you can do. Yes, every hard drive is kind of limited by that, but the number gets significantly smaller when it comes to flash drives. So you can get the Seagate. There's cheaper models of the Seagates. The one that we got our hands on was actually it's running for $157 right now on Amazon. But you can get Seagate also has as far as 4 terabyte drives. They have the Iron Wolf series, which is designed for NASs. Those run for about $130, and then Western Digital, of course, has their Western Digital Red series, which is also specifically for NAS. Western Digital has all the different color series, right? Like there's Western Digital Blue, which is meant for storage, not network area storage, but usually if you're making like if you're adding a second hard drive for storage into a computer, or if you're making an external hard drive kit, You would use a Western Digital Blue drive. There's the Western Digital Green, which is also good for long-term storage, right? And then there's the Black series, or like the Scorpio series, which is their high performance series that they use. So with Western Digital, they have the nice color coding system, but you want a Western Digital red drive for a NAS. So anyway, that's the hardware that I ran with, and that's all you need. Okay, because this is just going to connect to your router, but that is all the purchasing you need. So you could have, a very, very nicely set up. In fact, hell, wait a second. That is so weird. I clicked on it earlier, and the DS216J was running for that. Wow, that is odd. Okay, so when I literally while I'm recording this, I was clicking on it and it said it was selling for $170. Now it says it's selling for like $83. If you're hearing this in the time where you could get your hands on that, but it's not with Amazon Prime. I mean, wow, what a great deal. So anyway, that don't expect that price to really stick. So all right. Now, as far as what you can do, with a NAS, this is where things get interesting. But all right, first, I guess let's describe how do you put it together. All right, literally, it's you get the NAS. It's like, it's like a clamshell enclosure. Okay, you slide in the two hard drives. It's just a SATA port. It's two SATA ports. They just pop right in. Okay, you might want to screw in the hard drives a little bit, but I mean, you can't miss. Like there's very well set holes that you screw into, and then you put the clamshell over it. And there's like 4 screws in the back, 4 little screws, and you just screw those in, and that's it. And then you plug it in and it's over. And now, as far as like software setup, there is a guide on there. There's there's a website that you will go to that will, you'll like Synology makes all of this so easy because they kind of do the initial setup over their servers. Okay. So you'll put in the ID number for your Synology NAS. Okay. And then, and look, folks, later on, we're going to talk about perhaps what could be like security or privacy concerns over this. I'm aware of them. We'll talk about them later on. Okay. So you'll do that, and then they'll walk you through the whole thing right in your web browser on your laptop. You don't have to connect. There's no way to connect actually, your NAS to a monitor or anything like that. Okay. It's just a hard drive enclosure that you're going to plug in. You plug it into, with an Ethernet cord, you plug it into your router. All right. One of the ports or whatever. And that's it. And then you go to, I think it's like quickconnect.to. And we'll talk more about this in a second. And then it will do the whole setup for you. You'll register the thing and it'll do an auto update and all of that. And all of it, you access the NAS completely. Okay. Everything you're doing from the first time you boot it up, you're accessing it completely through a web browser. Okay. And, in the web browser, it's going to show up. It will look like, once it boots up after you register everything, it boots up and it just looks like another desktop. Like it looks like your Windows desktop like your OS. But obviously it's not Windows. It's, some offshoot of Linux effectively. But that's it. And it's going to look real. It's a really clean looking desktop. And it feels like, it almost feels like a KDE GUI. If more of the tech savvy listeners would know what that is, where, instead of having a taskbar along the bottom, like say in Windows, there's a taskbar along the top. Not that that's KDE, but there's other reasons it looks like KDE. That's more like GNOME, right? And you will have icons, desktop icons along the left-hand side, like probably you're used to with Windows. And then with Synology, they're really nice. They have like widgets on the right-hand side of this, desktop interface, okay, to your NAS. And like the widgets are, describing system health. You have a resource monitor, all of which are, really, really handy to see. So like you can see how much of the CPU you're using, how much RAM you're using. And yeah, your NAS has its own RAM. And so, this is a very, very clean, very nice desktop setup. Okay. And so once you're into that, now you can secure this. Okay. Probably the most complex part of this is setting up other users. besides, say, yourself, if you want to add on other users. But the nice thing is that, at the top, there's like a main menu, in the top taskbar when you finally get to the Synology desktop. Like I said, the setup all gets done through a website on Synology servers. I mean, it's so simple. It can't get any simpler. Like, it literally absolutely cannot get any simpler. For anything. I mean, if you could set up a Google account, you could set up the account to have your NAS up and running. And you'll have to wait when it's first setting up, like it's going to download updates and all that stuff. You're probably going to wait 10, 20 minutes for all of that to be into action. But then you'll boot into the desktop. If you look at the taskbar on the top, when you get into your Synology desktop, interface, okay, within your web browser on your laptop, I hope that's not confusing. There's like a little, what adds up to being a start button, and you'll click on that. And there's a search function to the right that shows up when you click on that, when you click on the start button. And in the search thing, you can type in whatever you want. Like if you want to type in, create a new user, and you will, and you hit enter, and it'll start coming up with stuff. And there's the easier way to do it is that there'll be what's called a DSM help icon. It's this big question mark icon, and you can click on that and you can type in whatever you're trying to do, like create new user, and it'll come up with that as well. That's probably the best way to go. And the documentation is very, very simple. Like, I mean, it's very cut and dry, bullet points. This is how you do it, no fluff. Which is good, especially for new users with a NAS. So you can do that, and you can figure out how to do, set up new users and everything. If it's just a single user, you're setting up the admin, like as you set up the device. And so just remember your password, and you should be good. Later on, you can actually set up two-factor authentication where it can work with a one-time PIN. Of course, I recommend doing that. And that's great that Synology offers that. Not every NAS solution has that two-factor authentication set up, but that's really great because also, it will, when you're doing the setup of your NAS with Synology, it'll ask you, what do you want to name this? And do you want to set up Quick Connect? And when you set up Quick Connect, it allows you to access your NAS from wherever you are. All with the URL. Like if you named your NAS, if you named it Freedom NAS or something, right? What you would do is say when you're at Starbucks or something, grabbing a unicorn frappuccino, you would type in freedomnas.quickconnect.to, and it would take you right to your NAS, and you would just have to do the login. If you had two-factor set up, you'd put in your one-time PIN. Very, very nice. Like, I mean, just super fucking nice how that works so well. And, so, yeah, you can access this from anywhere, once you do that. Now, when you have that set up, okay, and you have kind of your user set up, I'm not going to talk about the process of creating a new user because there's very specific things that you have to go through, and like there's a couple check boxes you got to hit and all that. All right. But when, once you have whatever, and if you're just running with the admin, it's just you. I mean, that makes it all the simpler. But there's advantages to adding on other users. We'll talk about that, in a second. So now, what do you do with this thing? Okay. Now, maybe the most basic thing you want to do is put all your files on it. There is software that you can install onto your laptop or desktop or whatever. Okay. Not on the NAS, that you can, install on another computer that will automatically sync. Yeah. It's like called Cloud Station, that will automatically sync with your NAS, or will allow you to upload very easily to your NAS. Or you can do it right within the desktop interface for the NAS, or the user interface for the NAS that exists within your web browser. You can upload within that as well. The other thing you can do is, say you were using an external hard drive to do all of your storage before you had a NAS. You can actually, the DS216J has two USB ports on it. You can plug in directly an external hard drive into that, and you can just transfer straight through using the user interface in the web browser, say on your laptop or however you're accessing your NAS, which also makes things very nice and allows for very, very quick transfer speed. Now the other beauty of that is that actually, if you have those external hard drives, you could connect those to your NAS and access them through the user interface for the NAS in your web browser. So you could actually, like say you already have a couple of 4 terabyte, external hard drives or something that you have laying around. You could connect all of that to your NAS, and you could have like say 18 to 16 terabytes in your 216J, Synology NAS. And you could have 30, however, whatever it all adds up to, you could add on a ton of terabytes, even though your disk station, your NAS only has 2 hard drive bays. So that's a really, really nice feature as well, that I like that you can set up. So great for transferring, different things. I mean, and maybe it's like the fast way for you perhaps to transfer something even onto a thumb drive if you want to do it that way. Just a lot of nice little options with that. I mean, you're going to find yourself using your NAS for like everything really quickly. Okay. Even if you've never used a NAS before, believe me, I mean, it's so simple. So storage, that's how you handle storage. You can upload everything into folders that you want, and you have a regular, like one of the first things, it's called File Station. Okay. When you click on File Station, it works like your average file explorer in whatever, usual desktop operating system you're used to using. Works the same exact way. The one thing you're going to want to get used to is that there are 2 options for when you're writing to the NAS, when you're, adding stuff into the storage. If you're uploading to it, okay, not doing the transfer directly from the USB hard drives like I was describing, there's 2 types of upload that you can do. There's skip and overwrite. Okay. And if you upload with, like when you right click on something to upload, say, files to your NAS, when it's upload skip will rename things if they need to be, if there's already a file in your NAS with that name. If you click upload overwrite, it will overwrite anything that already has that name on there. So, pay special attention to that when you're putting files onto your NAS. Now, so as far as storage, I think that's relatively self-explanatory. So we got that figured out. Now, here's the thing. So you're using this again, my recommendation is that you use this to replace the cloud services you presently use. Okay. Unless you really have to interact with the team, but even then you can do that with a NAS. So what you want to do now is, all right, what about like, do I have a Google Docs replacement that I can use? What if I use OneNote or Simple Note? What do I do as far as that goes? Or what if I use like my cloud storage for like, I use OneDrive and I use Microsoft Groove and I store all of my music on my OneDrive, because OneDrive offers 100,000 songs that you can put in the music folder. Regardless of what plan you have, it doesn't work against your storage space. And then you can access those through Microsoft Groove. It's a nice feature. How do I do all of these things that I do on all of these other cloud services on my NAS? Well, here's the beauty. So one of the other icons that'll be on your user interface in your web browser for the NAS is Package Center. Okay. And so it'll actually be the first one. There'll be Package Center, Control Panel, File Station, and then the help, the DSM help, which DSM, disk station. So when you go to that, it will come up with what is effectively an app store. Okay. And there's recommended, they're all broken down by what they can do. Now, be very clear here. Okay. That there are a lot of apps that are made by Synology themselves. And then there are apps that are made by third parties. The third-party ones, I don't think they let any shit on there or anything malicious onto there, but understand that you're probably not going to get the same level of support for the third-party ones as you do with the first-party Synology-made apps that are available. Okay, now there might already be a couple that are installed on there, but here's what you can add on. Like what I have is. Let's see, I have a calendar on there, so you can have your own calendar. Okay, you don't have to rely on Google's calendar anymore. You can put it right onto your NAS. I have Audio Station. Audio Station, remember we were just talking about OneDrive, how you could play your music from anywhere? Well, Audio Station is that, and it's pretty nice. Like for a music player setup, it's actually pretty cool. Like, I mean, it's a little basic, but for what it is, it's awesome, and I've used it and very, very handy. Then let's see what other, I have Chat. Ooh, this is one that I want to talk about more later, is this Chat one. But let's save that for another time. There's Photo Station, which is exactly what you think it is. It's a way to upload photos. Okay, there's Video Station, same deal. You can play videos and and access them whatever through Video Station. Note Station is another one. Note Station is your replacement for say OneNote or Simple Note or Google Keep or something like that, and it's a pretty full-featured note like I like it a lot. Definitely, in my opinion, it's actually the perfect replacement for like Simple Note or OneNote or something like this. Then the other one is Office, which is an entire full-featured Office suite that would replace, say, Google Docs, Microsoft Word Online, and all that. And it can save in DocX and all those other popular formats, ODT and everything. So you have all the software that you think of that comes with, your top of the line cloud services all exist here. You have to download them, of course. You have to install them. They're not going to give you the feature if you don't want it. That's a good thing. Okay. But you want to do that. Now, the other thing that this can also function as is a media server. There is media server software that it's all in the App Store. One click, boop, install, done. Okay. And then it'll let you know when to update it. Like there's a little notification center on the top right of the taskbar. And whenever there's something that needs a package that needs to be updated, it'll tell you. You can also set it to auto update if you want. That's a feature as well. And all of that, really gets talked about during setup. There is also, there's software called Hyper Backup. Hyper Backup, what you can do is you can make an exact, kind of like what Crash Plan or what's the other one? Wow, that's terrible. I can't think of it. Not kryptonite, carbonite. Oh, I couldn't think of it. Carbonite, like, where it's these services that do complete backups of your devices or, of your laptops and, desktops and whatever. You could set that up with Hyper Backup also on your NAS. But, depends on how much storage space you want to take up on your NAS for that sort of thing. So that's handy as well. But those are all the different apps that you can take advantage of. Pretty much anything you can think of that the major cloud services like Google Drive, Dropbox, or OneDrive, or whoever could do, this NAS can do. All that software is here. There's not a whole lot to say about it. The Office software, spreadsheets, right? Spreadsheets, word processor, all very nice. They work great. And again, you're going to interface with all this. You're going to use all this. You're going to access all this through whatever web browser you happen to be using. And I've tested it with Edge, Firefox, Opera, Chrome, all of them. And the performance is relatively the same with all of them. Like they all have the same features. It's not like, this is an irony. So there's a lot of features that Google Drive has that only works with Chrome. A lot of features that OneDrive have that, interestingly, also only works with Chrome. And kind of back and forth. Like you get different performance out of various cloud services based upon the web browser that you're using. With your Synology NAS, not at all. It works, as far as I've seen, it works the same no matter what. No matter what web browser you're accessing it through, because really you're just accessing an entire operating system that's stored, on your NAS. So yeah, Calendar, Office, all that stuff works as you'd expect. NoteStation works as you'd expect. The audio station, the music player. This is nice because you're not limited. Like with Google Play Music, you can upload 50,000 songs. You're only limited by hard drive space with Audio Station on your NAS. Now understand this, that the first party Synology apps like Office, like NoteStation, like Calendar, like Audio Station, Photo Station, and all that, they all have apps for iOS or Android. Yeah. And you download them, you install them from the Google Play Store or the App Store. And, when they open up, they will ask, okay, put in your login credentials. And so you put in, again, if it was freedomnas.quickconnect.to, you'd type that in and then you'd put in your password and boom, or username and password. And then there you go. You can access it from anywhere right on your mobile device, even on tablets or whatever. And they're very nice apps. Like I like them a lot. In fact, they even have they have dark themes. Like in some ways, the mobile apps are almost better than what's on the NAS itself. But they're very, very slick. And you can access it from anywhere. So that's the other advantage of the Synology, of going with Synology as far as a NAS, because the mobile apps are so fucking handy. Okay. So really, you're completely replacing these major cloud services. You don't need them anymore. Okay. You just don't like all, Synology has all this covered. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, this is one of the more interesting apps that exist for a Synology disk station, for a NAS, and that is Chat. Now, chat is really cool. Okay, because for one, now this is literally, it's a messaging, it's a chat, like it's a replacement for, some kind of chat service that you would use, a messaging app of some kind, like a Telegram or something. And it also is encrypted. It, has very, very nice encryption. I mean, it's not Signal, but the encryption's pretty good. So, 256, the whole thing. And the nice thing is that you can really create your own encrypted messaging app. That's really what you're doing here. And the chat app, of course, like all the other Synology apps, are available on iOS and Android. Okay, so you have this great messaging service that you can run for yourself. I mean, it's fantastic. Of course, you have to add on other users, and you'd have to, for each of those users, you have to go through the process of creating, passwords for them and everything. Now, the nice thing is that when you're adding users on, Synology will actually, all you have to do is like put in an email address for that user, and the email address will go to that person, and Synology will randomly set up the password. So it's not like you have to know the other person's password or whatever. They're going to have control. I mean, the ultimate admin could change the passwords, but as far as like seeing the passwords and all that shit, that all gets controlled by the user themselves, which is, I mean, it's really nice. So again, with Office and messaging and all that stuff, you really can have, this could also, if you're used to working with Teams and you use like Google Docs to work with Teams, or you use Google services in general to work with Teams, this can do all of that. You just have to set it up. You have to add in the users and everything to be able to do it. So the messaging part is just one of the coolest. Like I fucking love that. And of course, where are all those messages stored? Well, they're stored on your NAS. They're not stored with somebody else. I think that's so great, and it's encryption client side too. I mean, obviously it is when you're accessing it through a laptop or whatever, because you're going through the desktop interface. But it's also encrypted as far, on the mobile apps and everything, all client side. I mean, it's doing it right. It is so cool. To have, I mean, believe me, once you start using it, you're going to love it, because you're really like, you're making your own little, it's your own little messaging service. I mean, like you have all this stuff that other people, like your close circle of friends and everything that only you can use, and I think that's, I don't know, there's something really sexy about it in my opinion. So anyway, yeah, you can add all that stuff on. You could put shortcuts for all of it onto the, the user interface for the NAS that exists within your, whatever tab you have running in your web browser, right? And that does the trick, and then like how it'll end up looking is everything that you have open. Now, the chat window will actually open up another tab. It won't just exist as a window within the UI. Okay, for the NAS, a lot of this software will just open up just like in any other desktop operating system, where you'll have a window and and you can move them around, and it'll work like that, and you can have multiple things running. Which again, this is using a NAS. It's just like using another computer. That's really what it chalks up to. But the chat will function in its own window. Part of that is probably because of the encryption somehow. I'm not exactly sure on the reasonings for that, but that's how that take shape. Some of the other apps will do that from time to time, like the Office app will open its own tab and everything. But what? It's probably because of the team nature of it, is that it opens up in a separate it opens up in a separate tab, because not everybody would be accessing it on the same desktop user interface for the NAS. So anyway, but that's really not that important. So yeah, I mean, you could set this up for your whole family. You could set, like I said, for your circle of friends, your little union of egoists. You could all have your own little, you could have your NAS, and everybody would be able to access that. Everybody could share music. You could all chat on it, with encrypted chat. You could, if you're working together as a team on various documents or something, you could, all that could get shared on it. Or if this is all just for you, well, great. It's all just for you, and you don't have to worry about, the other, one of the nice things about this with the NAS is that it is just this little hard drive enclosure. I mean, it's a little bit heavy, but it's, it's the size of a hard drive enclosure. And if your house is on fire or whatever's going on, grab your NAS and run. If you store everything on that, and I think that that's a great idea, because it's not, I mean, the nice thing is, so there's a lot of sleep options too with the NAS that you can like implement to where, you know, the hard drives aren't always running or being accessed or something. There's walkthroughs for how to set all that up, you know, as you're first setting up the, you know, your Synology disk station. And those are nice, but I mean, bottom line being is that it's not like this constantly, really, it's not this constantly running OS where your hard drive is constantly being accessed. So it's probably about the safest way to, you know, to even store stuff in the first place that isn't, you know, storing it with Google or Microsoft or Amazon or Dropbox or something. So that's an advantage, you know, as well. And again, you have the mobile apps. I mean, just, oh man, there's no reason not to do this. Now, okay, but maybe there are some reasons not to do this, and let's break these down. And this is why in the future, this might need to be a series where I cover other network area storage options, other cloud options. Like I've mentioned before, there's FreeNAS, where you can kind of set it up on your own hardware. There is, you know, instead of buying something pre-built or, you know, more pre-made like the Synology ones, there is Sandstorm.io, there's OwnCloud. There are others, okay, that a person can, you know, look into. And because I think the concern here, in fact, OwnCloud's pretty good too, because that also has really good mobile apps that allows for, you know, using it like a more traditional cloud service. But anyway, you know, the concern here is that, well, you know, is Synology, you know, it's not like everything they do is open source. Are they handing stuff over to the government? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's a totally valid concern. Like if you are doing this to, you know, kind of hide your data to some degree, you know, from the NSA or something like that, yeah, maybe Synology is not your best option to go with. Okay. And especially because just by the very nature that you can access it from anywhere, like, you know, you can access it not even from your home network, but other networks. Yeah, that creates some degree of problems. Now, I mean, there's solutions around that, like Sandstorm.io still encrypts stuff and, you know, and you can still access it potentially from anywhere. But yep, that's certainly, you know, there's privacy concerns to be had, you know, when using a Synology disk station, but it comes down to that, you know, what is it? Security versus convenience. There's always that trade-off, and it's true. There still always is. So for the convenience, not so much a security issue, but privacy, which is the kiss and cousin of security, and really a requirement to have 100% security. Yeah, maybe you feel like it's not there. I respect that, you know, and I probably agree that there might be concerns, even though the chat encryption is pretty good. You know, like the way that's set up, I don't think Synology has all of your, you know, chat information. So, well, yeah, you could say, but it's all, you know, it's not an open source, you know, chat solution. So maybe that's a problem. Yeah. Well, again, you know, there you go. Okay. Like I said, that mindset, I totally get it, but you know, you have to get into to have that 100% or close to 100% privacy, anti-NSA setup. I mean, you're going to get you got to get really technical, you know, and Synology is not what you need, because Synology is a nice, easy setup, you know, for people. So, I mean, this is it, in my opinion. This is the, you know, absolute or, you know, cloud service, Google OneDrive, Cloud Drive, you know, Amazon Cloud Drive, Dropbox, whatever replacement. Okay. Now the concerns, we mentioned the privacy concerns. There's also the major concern that I think a lot of people would have is, hey, what if your hard drives go bad? You know, I mean, isn't there a problem, you know, with that, as to where when Google's hard drives go bad, they already have like 1 million backups going on. And so your data is a lot more secure. And to, you know, to answer like that, well, sure, that's a very real problem. The two things I would recommend is, you know, maybe go with, instead of the model we talked about in this is the DS216J, maybe go with the DS416J. And that way you can set up more backup drives, you know, within the 4-bay, you know, external kit, right? Or yeah, enclosure. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, enclosure. You know, do that. Or, you know, if you only need 4 terabytes, well, then buy 2 4-terabyte drives in the 216J and just run it in RAID 1. All of that, you know, it gets explained while you're setting it up, how you want to do that. And so do that. And if the hard drives go bad, I mean, then what you can do, you know, if you want to get that saucy, you could get software like SpinRite, because again, these aren't flash drives. Okay. And you can get, hard drive maintenance tools like SpinRite, and just every once in a while run SpinRite on them to make sure that they're still in fighting shape. So yeah, you're going to have to do a little bit of maintenance, but you do have complete control of your data and of the services that you get to use with that data. So I think, it's easy enough to resolve that. Okay. Like in my opinion. And I know that Synology offers really great transfer tools if you end up buying another NAS down the line that will transfer everything over to your new NAS. So Synology kind of makes it easy for you to be able to back that up. Now, as far as, and look, to say that, well, but that would never happen with, with the cloud service. Yeah. Kind of yes, kind of no. Like we described with OneDrive Gate. Effectively, you lost terabytes of storage. It's not exactly the same, and you have time to download the stuff, I understand, but then also, there's plenty of tools, there's ways to, recover data from a hard drive if you run into that kind of issue. So yeah, so I get that concern. It's a valid one, but at the end of the day, I think it chalks up, it's worth the risk. How about I put it that way? It's really, really worth the risk. Now, here's the other thing. What if you are traveling? What if you are away from home, or you put your NAS, somewhere else, like at some kind of remote location or something? And what if the power goes out, or what if the NAS shuts down? This does happen. Now, the NAS, there's times where it wants to update to new versions of the Synology OS software, and your NAS will go down. Like it'll do the install. It'll go down for like 10 minutes, and then it'll kind of power itself back up. But like, what if the power goes out for a while? Now, this recently happened when I was on my trip to England. Okay. In New England, as in New Hampshire, okay, where I live, there was a crazy snowstorm, and the power actually did go out while Stephanie and I were away. And it must have been out for a few hours. Now, I know it was out for a few hours based upon, the way the clocks were when we got back. But because there were so many hours different from the actual time based upon when, devices, when various appliances turn back on, they all reset to midnight. Right. So anyway, when, there's a certain amount of time to where the NAS could power back up on its own. I forget what that exact amount of time is, but the amount of time I know that the power was at least out for was about 7 hours. And 7 hours, yeah, the NAS would not come back up, on its own after, like, cause it would have to hold on to like a, to like, even if it had like a built-in UPS or something, it would have to hold on for a charge for like a really long while. So yeah, so that's a concern. Now that's an easily mitigatable concern. Okay. With downtime. And that is, like I just mentioned, you hook up an UPS, okay. UPS, backup, or an ABS, whatever, not ABS. I'm thinking of the company APC that makes UPS. You hook it up to a backup power supply, like an UPS. Okay. And that way, if things shut down, the disk station keeps on running and just waits for the router to show back up. And once the router's back up, you're in fighting shape, or you can plug in the router, to the UPS as well. So that's also solvable. Okay. If you're away and there's some downtime. Now, there's still the chance that the thing could freeze. Absolutely. And you can't reset it without physically being there. That sort of thing does happen. But keep that in mind. If you're a person that's like traveling all the fucking time, well, you probably don't have a home base to put a NAS anyway. So that really, I can't, I get the concern, but it doesn't make logical sense, like, to have a NAS if you really don't have a home. Okay. So that's kind of a requirement, is to have like an apartment or a home or something to where this, where this thing could be stored. And again, like, you do want to have it at a home, because that's where you get to take advantage of the incredible speeds that you get of upload and download times, because it's all on the same network. Okay. So I can get it that you'd want it at a remote location, and I could appreciate, kind of the fun, of doing that. But at the same time, like, that doesn't, you lose some of the advantages of having a NAS on a local area network, connected to your router and all that, that you have. So Anyway, so yeah, I get those. Those are probably the three major concerns that people have: is what happens if the hard drives go bad? Well, there's solutions for that that we described. What happened? Is it really private from the NSA? Okay, maybe not with a Synology one, but with other ones, it's certainly easy enough to be. And then the third one is, what if the power is out? What if it goes down and all that stuff? Well, that's certainly that's a possibility while you're away. Yes. And you might not be able to access your shit. That's a problem. If you're going away for a really long period of time, maybe make copies or, download from your, from your NAS, download some of the documents that you think you're going to need, or that are like really mission critical, like say podcast templates or something like that, and have them available on the computer that you're going with, to be sure of that. So yeah, I mean, all these things are easily, really, in my opinion, easily solvable. And just the advantages that you get of you having control of the amount of storage that you have, paying a one-time fee, not having to hash out monthly fees and all this bullshit, having the speeds available, and then along with having the mobile apps, which makes all of it, really viable. Like, yeah, again, I think it's a no brainer. And it's so easy to set up, a Synology NAS. The other NAS solutions that we'll talk about, in the future, those are harder. Okay. And like, it would be very difficult, I think, actually, to explain how to set them up exactly over audio. But we could definitely talk about best practices and implementations and best hardware and things like that in future entries, to what could become a series. But this is the one that I want to get out there. I mean, and there's a lot of other uses too. In fact, actually, there's things I should have mentioned this earlier. Some of the third-party software, you can actually host a podcast and create a podcast feed through a Synology NAS. There's an app. It's a third-party app, but there's an app that lets you do that, which I think is really cool. And like, if I had that capability, 5 years ago, I would totally be self-hosting Sovereign Tech, well, maybe that wouldn't be so practical on my end because I get so many thousands of downloads that would really take up some network space. So think about that. But, if you're looking at a smaller podcast or something like that, yeah, you could set up your own feed and host your podcast right off of your NAS. That's fucking awesome. I mean, really, I think that's an incredible feature to take advantage of. I mean, the other possibility, you can use these as mail servers. Like you could set up your own email, everything, on this. I mean, at the end of the day, with a lot of the different apps, when you look through the package center on the Synology NAS, like you could set up, your own Git. You can set up, like your own little GitHub. I mean, you could almost make your own internet with it. And I think that's a great direction to get used to and to jump on. Like for activists, I could see this see this being such an awesome tool. Again, don't count on it being 100% private and encrypted. The chat's pretty good, but some of the other stuff, I get it that it could be iffy, but like, I really think this is powerful, and it's something that you can just, if need be, pick it up and run with it, run away. I mean, it's smaller than not if depending on the laptop, but it's a small device that you can, get away with. I love these things. I think this is the direction to go. I do not trust the cloud anymore. I trust my own shit, my own servers, my own NAS, all that, that's the direction that I think people, kind of relocalizing your data and really taking personal control of it again. And now it's so easy to do. It used to be a pain in the ass. I mean, even just 5 years ago to set up your own server and everything. I mean, it's not that bad, but I think for the average person, it was insurmountable. As to where now, like with a Synology NAS, it's so fucking easy to do. So, and it's just, it's great. Like there is an incredible feeling, when you're using your own shit and like you're setting up your own, your own little, internet, like literally with, I mean, it's not the entire infrastructure. You're still accessing it obviously through cable lines and everything, but yeah, it's your own little corner of the digital world. Far more so than even just like some simple website. It's so cool. I just, scratched the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with it. But when you look through the package center and you see all the options that you have, you'll be amazed at what you could pull off. Even like if you want to use it as a backup for like a security system to where, you have cameras and everything and you use the NAS to store all the video footage and all that, you can easily set that up with a Synology NAS to where you can have, video cameras around your property and everything and, rock and roll with that. So that's another option that's out there. There's tons of options. It's the best. So yeah, again, if you want to go hardcore, there's other options, Sandstorm, FreeNAS, all that. But, this is, you're going to invest, depending on what the pricing of everything is, you're going to invest $300-400 maybe. But I think it's worth every fucking penny, because you're not going to rely on any of those big companies ever again. And even if Synology went under, your shit's still gonna work, at least on the local area network. It's still going to work. And there'd probably be ways people would come up with third-party solutions that would allow it to work without it. So I think I think this is a really long-term solution, and Synology is actually doing very well for itself because of the easy use of these things and people getting on board with it due to various reasons that, in my opinion, make a lot of sense. So anyway, that's it. All right, there you go. Here's our first little NAS special covering particularly the Synology. Again, the model that I use is the DS216J. Link is in the show notes for that, as well as potential hard drives to get your hands on. And there you go. So I'll see you on the other side. Hey, remember, no new Sex and Science Hour this week. We did the season 3 finale, but there will be a brand new Sovereign Tech. Got some great stuff lined up for you as far as that goes. All right, see you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovereign Tech. Go to sovereigntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovereign Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.